Hi everybody, welcome back. In the last couple of videos we've gone ahead and installed Eclipse with the PHP tools, and we've added a couple of plugins. The Subclipse version control plugin for Subversion, and the Aptana plugin, which gives us some kind of web design tools. Now that those are in there, I want to take a look at the interface itself. It can be a little overwhelming, which once you get used to it, all that stuff that's overwhelming actually you realize it's great tools. You're going to probably want to rearrange your workspace here, and something, they actually call these perspectives in Eclipse, not Workspace. Something very cool about Eclipse as compared to Dreamweaver: Eclipse allows you to open up multiple instances of itself, and what that allows you to do is not only can you already save different perspectives, layouts of your panels and everything, just like you can in Dreamweaver, but in Eclipse you can actually open multiple instances. And so I could open one instance and give it my PHP layout that I like, and then I can open another instance at the same time and have a layout that I like for editing CSS. And you can open as many as you want. And if you're someone like me who has multiple monitors, that becomes really handy. You can have these open on separate monitors, and it's pretty cool. It's hard to imagine until we actually do it, but that's just something to look forward to. But let's just go ahead and look at some of the basics here. I'm not going to go through the whole program. The whole program is enormous, but I'm going to go through what you need to know, at least for this series we're working on right now. We've already seen where you install plugins. That's up in the help here, where you install new software. You can also always check for updates if you want to see if there's updates for your plugins or updates for this version of Eclipse itself. Aptana also has its own little kind of support section. It's added on here since we put that plugin there. Right now we're working with pretty much an empty workspace, so we want to create a new project. And as I noted when we were setting up Eclipse, one of the only real downsides is that you cannot easily import. You can't just set up your workspace folder to be the same folder that you've been using to save all your websites and Dreamweaver and such. The sites that you want to work on, you kind of have to unofficially import them in. And what we'll do is I have a framework that I use for PHP that I created. It's a very simple framework. It's actually only 2 files, but I'm going to use that as an example for how to not only create a project but then bring the files into the program properly. So there's a couple ways we can start a new project, and that is either come up here to this drop down menu here, or you can go to File, New, and go to PHP Project, and that's what we're going to do. And it's going to come up with this dialog box, and you want to name your project, and you want to be pretty unique with your names. I tend to do something that's similar to how they name Android applications, and that's what they call reversed domain name. I don't exactly do that, but I do something similar, and what I'm going to do is I'll put the project name first, which the project name is PRDM. It's actually pronounced per diem, and then .dev. This is my development version of per diem. I haven't yet released it yet, so this is where I'm working on it. Just for the record, actually, we will be using, and I'll introduce per diem within our CMS, the Atom CMS that we're building. So most of these options you'll want to keep the same unless you feel you need to change them. This right here asks you if you want to create this in the workspace you're in now, which normally you'd want to. If you want to create it in another workspace, if you have more than one workspace. And just to be clear and remind you, Workspace is that dialog box that comes up when you first open Eclipse. It asks you what workspace you want. It's basically what folder you're working in. So we're going to keep this as, we want to open this in this workspace. The PHP version, just use the default settings usually. Project layout, go ahead and don't worry about that now. Go ahead and enable JavaScript support for this project. You don't necessarily need to, or at least I don't necessarily need to for this particular project, but why not? And then if we wanted to do anything else more detailed, we can click next, but we really don't have anything else to do here. So let's go ahead and click finish. And it's going to create our project, which right now what it's doing is creating a folder in my workspace folder, and the folder is going to be called prdm.dev, and here it is in our PHP Explorer. And if I expand this, you'll see these are the JavaScript and PHP libraries. These are tools to help you utilize things that are part of PHP and JavaScript, which is pretty cool. These are not a part of your project necessarily. These do not get uploaded with your project or saved with your project. These are just kind of associated with them. So we have our project now. But like I said, I've already got this set up in Dreamweaver, and I need to get these files from the old website, or the old folder that I had it in for Dreamweaver, and put it into the new folder. Okay, and what I've done is I've got two Windows Explorer windows open, and one of them, this one here, this is my original folder. This is where I'm going to take from. And as I said, it's a very simple project. It's only 2 files. And then this that I'm bringing over here, this is the Workspace folder that Eclipse has built. Or this is the actual Workspace folder, and you can see my perdiem.dev folder. So if I open this, there's some files in here already, and this is part of the reason why you can't really just use your old folder, because Eclipse makes these files that are hidden and not uploaded or anything, but they're specific to Eclipse, and it tells Eclipse things about your project. So these need to be here. So all I need to really do is just, highlight these, and I can either right click and copy then paste, or I can hold down Control and click and drag a copy. So what I'm going to do, so now they're in there, and I can get rid of these windows. And before we can see those, actually, we need to open up a view, which these panels in here are what they call the view. We're missing a panel that's normally open all the time, and in this particular version of Eclipse, for some reason it wasn't open. So let's go to Show View and then go to Other and click on General, and we want Project Explorer, and that's showing up down here. I'm going to click that and drag that to be part of this group here, and I'm actually going to click on this type hierarchy and get rid of it. I don't want it. So let's go ahead and click this down here. So now you see our files, and you generally work out of this Project Explorer. You don't really need the PHP Explorer open. So I'm going to go ahead and close that for now. So this is where all your projects are going to lay. If I minimize this, if you were to create another project, it would show up underneath here. And you can imagine this could get pretty cluttered, so if there are ways that you can set up different workspaces that you think you can organize things better, it's not a bad idea. But try and group projects that go together in the same workspace. It kind of helps out. So we've got this Project Explorer. Down here we have these this is a kind of a debug window. This isn't really necessary right now. This is more for software. This may show JavaScript errors and PHP errors, but I don't believe that it does. So let's just get rid of this for now. Tasks. These are items that you can set up for yourself to give yourself kind of a task list for this project. We're not going to use those. We actually use, if we'd use tasks, we'd use tasks in the version control. So close that. This console, this is actually kind of like using DOS or the Linux command line. It's kind of a emulator, but we don't need that either, so let's close that. And just to be clear, what I'm doing is setting up an environment that is conducive to working on the projects we're going to work on. You don't necessarily have to set them up the same way I do, but it wouldn't hurt, because this is how I'm going to have it set up in the videos. So if you are following along with Eclipse and not using Dreamweaver, then you might want to do this. So I'm going to go up to Window again, and I'm going to go Show View, click Other, and kind of expand this out here. There's just a ton of panels. You'll see all these. Let's go to PHP Tools, and one of the views I want is PHP Project Outline. This one's pretty cool. Say OK, and it shows up over here on the left. Oops, sorry, I screwed that up. So I'm going to drag that out a little bit, and if I click on one of my projects, actually I just realized I made one mistake. We do want the PHP Explorer open. That was my fault. We want both these open. They both have their reasons to be open. So go to Window, go to Show View, choose PHP Explorer, and if it doesn't show up right here, with this group here, then drag it up in here. That's probably the best place for it. So let's go ahead and expand this. You can see my files in here. I'm going to go ahead and open one. And this is going to give you a little bit of insight into what I'm doing. But again, I say it's a framework, but it's a very, very simple framework. So we can get rid of this welcome screen. Alright, now we have, by default, it opens up this outline here. what I want to do is the outlines for general projects, and what we want to do is go to Window and do Show View and do PHP Project Outline. Now this one's got PHP specific items in it. Let's drag, actually let's just go ahead and close this outline so that this is the only one over on the right. And if we click on our project over here, what's really neat about this, I don't know if we'll be able to see it because I don't necessarily have a lot of things defined in here, but yeah, we do. Okay, so if you click on functions, it shows all the functions you have created. And in a bigger project, this would be a long list. And what's even cooler about this is that if you double click on this, it will actually take you to the file where this is being defined. So already you're starting to see how this has some tools that PHP doesn't have, some great ways to get around to your projects, different parts of your projects. Constants, we haven't really got into that. Classes we won't be getting into, that's a different type of programming, nor namespaces, but functions and constants we will be using. So let's go up to Window and go to Show View and click Other and kind of expand this, and we're going to go ahead and choose PHP Functions. This is a good one, especially if you're learning. Say OK. Now let's actually drag this to be set with the project outline, because you don't need this open all the time. But what this is just amazing. This is a list of all, or at least it should be, all of the predefined functions in PHP. So if you forget how one's written, you can come down and look at it. It's pretty cool. It's just a lot of information here, and you know, if you think you forget how it's written out, but you know part of it, like it starts with MySQL, then it'll show you a list of those that belong with that. So that's pretty cool, just kind of as a reference. Back to the outline here. So what I want to do is, we might add to this later, but this is a good start. Let's go to Window and save perspective as, and let's call this PHP Editor. Say OK. And so now anytime we want to load this view, this perspective, which again, perspective is a set of panels which they call views, and how you have them arranged. In Dreamweaver, those are called workspaces. Workspaces takes on a different name in Eclipse. So what I want to do now is show you that other thing that's really cool, and that is the fact that you can open up multiple instances of Eclipse. So I've got my PHP editor. This is set up so that I'm comfortable. It's got all the tools I need, my files, my quick access to my functions and things like that. But when I'm editing CSS, I'd like to have some different tools available. So let's do this. Let's go to Window and say New Window. And now this looks the same, minus I don't have anything open. But if I take this away and drag them down, you'll see it's a totally separate window. We're still working, we can still be working on the same project, but have our own new editor, window open. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a new environment, and we're going to make this specifically for CSS. So let's go ahead and close the PHP Explorer, keep the Project Explorer, let's go ahead and close the project outline and the project functions. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create a new CSS file. Okay, so this is the CSS editor. Now, I will say one thing I don't like about the Aptana plugin is that I do not like the black background it gives the editor. So I'm going to show you how to change that. But I'm going to put in just, some sample property in here. And just for the heck of it here. Now if we go up to Window and go to Preferences, and we go to Aptana Studio, and we kind of expand that, go down to Themes, and this is where that theme is being defined. Now what's really cool about this is Aptana actually has, not only does it have a bunch of predefined themes, but if you open this up, it's actually got a Dreamweaver theme. So if you click on this, it sets it up to be pretty similar to Dreamweaver's color scheme. So we say OK, and now we've gotten rid of that. So this looks a little more familiar, doesn't it? That's great. So, and that preference will save. You don't have to worry about changing that every time. But that black background is just really hard, I believe, at least for me, to see. So, and this should be more familiar anyway. So let's continue building our perspective here. Let's go to Window and Show View, choose Other, and let's go ahead and get Outline. Before we had chose PHP Outline. We want just a regular outline for this one. And I'm actually going to move it over here, and it doesn't need a whole lot of space, so we'll keep it like that. Now what you're seeing here is that it's going to show you an outline of all the things you've defined in here, and this thing becomes great when you have a big CSS file. So say we go in here and we want to define the body. You see it adds that there, and just for an example, I'm gonna give us a lot of room and come all the way down here and make another class. And then scroll back up to the body here. What's great about this is not only does it show you a list, it also shows you the properties of each class, but you can double click on the class or whatever rule you're making, that is, and it'll take you to it. And that's pretty cool. That is really great when you've got really large CSS files. And you can even click on the properties and it'll take you straight to a property. And I don't know, to me, you really can't beat that. That is amazing. So the outline's definitely got to be there, and I put it right here because I kind of feel like it's appropriate here. It kind of goes along with the Explorer itself. So let's go to Window and go to Show View, go to Other, and let's choose Properties. Say OK. And shrink this a little bit over here. Now, this isn't showing us what I want it to show us, and that is because we need to do something here. Let's go ahead and we need to open this, right click, open with, and we want to use this other CSS editor. If you use that other CSS editor, this will give you a list of all the properties, or at least a good majority of them. It's missing some of the CSS3 stuff. But if you want to work within this editor, which you lose that Dreamweaver styling that the other CSS editor has, but if you want to work this way, you'll see this. Not only is this a list of all the properties, but you can go in here and edit the properties. And it will go ahead and add it. So I forgot to add the colon there, semicolon. So that's up to you, and it will change the properties for whatever class or whatever rule you're in. This is good for those of you who are learning still and don't remember the properties by name. So you can kind of choose which one you want to use. The very last thing I want to do is just kind of show you an example of something you can do. If I right click and I say new folder, I'm going to call this CSS, and this is where I want to put my CSS. So I'm going to close these, save it, close, and I'm going to drag this into the CSS folder. There we go. Alright, now the reason I bring this up, or the reason I did that, is you can actually do what's called go into. And for our CSS editor, you know, in a big project, we're gonna have tons of folders. You know, functions folder, config folder, images, and so on and so forth. We can right-click on CSS and say go into, and it will go into that folder. It's kind of like opening it in Windows Explorer and only show the files in that folder. And you can always click the back button to go back. But if you want this to be a nice CSS editor, then you can simply just go in here and say go into, and all your CSS documents in that folder will be shown. And then you can work from there. So lastly, what we want to do is go to Window, save perspective as, and we'll call this CSS Editor. And say OK. So now we have these two views, which normally I would have this view here, the CSS view, down. You can't see it, but right now I'm dragging it down to my monitor lower, underneath this monitor. And I would have that one maximized down there, while I have my main one, my main PHP one, open here. And I can easily open a new perspective by going to Other, and I can find the we made our CSS editor and our PHP editor, and those are the ones we made. You can call them whatever you want. Maybe you might want to put your name on it or something special so you can find them quicker. Or you can try out these other views. When we start explaining how to do SVN, subversion repositories, and all that stuff, then we'll end up using this view, which I'll load really quick. and this one is built for loading the repositories and checking out files and seeing what tasks are in the repository, seeing the history of revisions. This is all stuff that's kind of Greek to you guys probably. Now if you look up here and drag this out a little bit, it keeps kind of a history of the perspectives you've had open. You can quickly go back to your PHP editor or back to the SVN editor, or sorry, perspective. So that's good to know. So, you know, to recap, we've created a perspective, which is a set of views, which views in Eclipse are these panels, these tools, you might call them. So a perspective is a set of views, and to relate that to Dreamweaver, those perspectives would be called a workspace, which you can save workspaces in Dreamweaver. However, a workspace in Eclipse is what you call the folder where you're storing all your projects. That is your workspace. So there's a little bit of a difference there, and that's important to remember. And then what we did was we went to Window and we chose New Window, and that opened up a new window and allowed us to create another perspective. And this perspective is not only set up totally for editing a different type of file, in this case CSS, but we can have two perspectives open at the same time, so we can work on the project and work on the files from that project in two different editors at the same time. And that helps not only just for organization, but it also is nice. Say you're working in one of your PHP files and you're curious to see what the properties are for one of your CSS documents. Instead of opening them here and having to flip from tab to tab, you know, through this list of tabs like you would in Dreamweaver, you can open up your CSS here and have it on your other monitor, like I would. That is if you have two monitors, or you could just simply switch to this view. But either way, you guys are getting the point, I think. And this is by far the longest video in this series. There really isn't much more to Eclipse that you need to know that we're not going to learn within the developing a dynamic website from start to finish series. So, and really the only extra thing we're going to talk about is the SVN, and we've already seen that perspective. So really it's more about teaching you about version control in general than it is about how to use Eclipse to do it. So this concludes our intro to Eclipse. Anybody has any questions, feel free to make some comments, and I'll try to answer them. If not, hopefully some of our other users can help answer. But this is supposed to be a, I'll say this. This series is meant as either a intro to Eclipse for those who have been taking or watching the developing a dynamic website series, because we're going to switch to using Eclipse either in the next video or the next video after that, but very soon. So instead of spending time in our lesson or in our series to kind of get sidetracked and have to talk about Eclipse, I wanted to create that as kind of an appendix, a secondary set of videos that you can watch outside of the series. But this also works as, you know, for anybody who's interested in using Eclipse or using a free editor like Eclipse, or I mean trying to find a free editor. Eclipse is a great tool, and you might even try, if you're just doing web design, you might try just downloading Aptana if you're not going to be doing all the PHP things that we are doing. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'm looking forward to continuing the other series.